Have you ever been paralyzed thinking, what if I make the wrong decision? Free will is such a sweet gift from God, but it can be intimidating to try to move forward at times with all the different options and opinions out there, right? This week on Devoted in the Daily, we're talking about this kind of overwhelm, and we're also covering 3 areas of obedience. Obedience in our obligations, our oppositions, and opportunities. We are so stoked to have you join us. Now, let's talk about it. Hello there, I'm Christine James.
And I'm Jocelyn DeWitt. And here's the thing. The God who created all the earth did not call you, set you apart, anoint you, and create you to live an ordinary life. He called you to live an extraordinary one.
Now, Jocelyn and I, we don't have PhDs. We don't have mega ministries. We're just 2 anointed ladies oversharing about living devoted in the dailies. Welcome to the conversation.
This is Devoted in the Daily.
Hello.
Here we are.
Welcome to our alphabetical season.
A to Z.
A to Z.
We're talking about,
Oh.
She did it again. She copied me again.
I always repeat
She
the letter
copied
after.
me again.
I just do.
So here we go.
It sounds really funny when I'm editing. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Oops.
Sesame Street.
Yeah. Don't mind us. Okay, so we're diving into O.
And our first segment is always our favorites. So, what is one of your favorite O's, my friend Jocelyn?
I really love the Oregon coast.
Oh,
That just came to me.
Hey,
Yes.
Oregon coast is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super familiar with it. I've gone maybe a few times, but
Love the Oregon coast.
Cool.
That's just.
okay.
What's one of your favorite O's?
Optimism.
Okay. That caught me off guard. That's what I was like,
yeah.
huh? Yeah. Optimism. Oh, I see that in you. Yes.
I really think, gosh, why not be optimistic?
It's true. That's why I say choose in all the time. You got to just be optimistic in the day.
I mean, and I feel sometimes people have perceived that as fake, I think. And I just want
I never
to
really thought about that, but you're probably a little bit right.
on the bright side. Now, I understand that sometimes, there's got to be a reality check. You've got to see things how they are.
Yes.
But
Sometimes you can be fakely optimistic too.
there is an overcomer, which was also another favorite. Overcoming was also another
Yes.
of my favorite O's. But we have a Christ that has overcome the grave and has victory over everything.
All the obstacles.
So, hey, I got that
Uh-huh.
obstacle. So why not be optimistic?
I like it.
So, yeah, there we go.
So we're wrestling over favorite food that starts with an O. And
Because she always has to bring a food in.
I have to bring a food into it. And I was like,
I
oh
mean,
gosh,
why not?
Lord, what's an O? What's an O food that I like? Because I didn't write it down. And then all of a sudden he brought one of my favorite O things. Well, first I love onions. We might have Googled all the O foods. So I could have a refresher real quick of what starts with an O. Oatmeal, onions. But you know what? One of my favorite favorite things is, it starts with an is all of a sudden I was thinking my favorite flower is an Oregon grape flower. That's the silliest thing. That's what just came to mind, isn't how the Oregon grapes are blossoming right now. No, is the Spokane Country Club makes these orange essence biscuit scone things. And I am telling you, it's like a recipe that's 100 years old. I don't know how old it is, but I know that it's that old. And it's been around as long as this country club has been around. And they are out
of this. Okay. I've always enjoyed an
They're not
orange
gluten-free.
cranberry muffin or something.
Oh, yeah. They're good.
There was a gluten-free muffin at CDA Coffee I indulged in a month ago.
Yeah, was it good?
I don't normally eat
Carby things.
bakery items, and so it was
Is it like heaven?
so good.
It was like heaven to me, wasn't it?
Sometimes you just need to
Good.
do a little splurge.
Yeah, like a good oatmeal cookie. Oh man, I love a good oatmeal cookie.
Yeah.
With raisins.
Okay.
Anyway, you know what I don't like is olives.
Oh, I love olives. Well, I don't like all olives, but I do. I made lunch and I put olives in her lunch. So
I don't know what my face looks like when I just don't. Everyone that knows me knows I don't like olives, but I love olive oil. We both love olive oil. I know
you, and I didn't know you don't like olives. So take it back.
Now you know. Now you know. Now you know. I've never been an olive person ever, unless they're in a drink and they're shoved.
Well, I'm glad because I wanted your olives last night when I was prepping our food. All of them. I'm gonna take them.
Oh man, because I want to give them all to you.
I'm gonna take them. Kalamata. Kalamata? Did I pronounce that right?
Yep, Kalamata olives.
With the cucumber.
I used to have to open them and like bury my hand into a jar, pull them out, chop them all up, and then literally for the entire day, my hand would smell like Kalamata olives. And it's like oysters. I shucked so many oysters for so long that for a while I couldn't eat oysters.
Hey, that's another O.
I know. That's why I said it.
Oh, okay.
I can eat a good oyster now.
I don't know. Well,
wow, we talked about food for a little while.
We're gonna
dive into what we're thinking.
Our next segment.
What are we thinking?
Oh, okay. Well, this was really hard for me not to get into on our last episode when we were talking about navigating.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm thinking that, the freedom that Christ gives us is phenomenal. Like, it is so cool. And the way how he has made us so unique, and we're all so like different.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when we have options, it can be hard. Well, like sometimes it's so great to have options, right?
Right.
And that's freedom where God will give us all the options.
How do you navigate those options? See, if
that's
you didn't
what
know,
I was talking about.
Go
like
back
why
to the end episode. Yes.
And opinions. He gives us all unique opinions. So like I was just thinking about opinions and options, and navigating these things can be so challenging.
They are challenging.
Everybody's opinions on things, and I don't know, man.
And your own opinion, it's not even necessarily, well, it is sometimes everybody else's opinions. But sometimes it's like our own opinion and how it plays with the Lord.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I think both ways.
Yeah.
Like my opinion.
Versus what the Lord wants.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I don't really like this. And he's like, sorry, you asked for my will. Oh, okay.
Remember, you wanted to lay down your will.
Yeah. And so then I have to be humbled, right? And then I need to pray for my heart to come in line with him. But you're also right. Other people's opinions. Sometimes we have to guard ourselves from who we're talking to during a period of time of heavy navigation, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't need a lot of opinions coming in, because then we might fall into people pleasing or get distracted. Or
when we're already having a hard time navigating.
Yeah.
We've got all these voices. Yeah.
Oh, it's rough. So you need to be wise.
As serpents. And innocent as doves.
Yes.
And not naive. Okay, but we're in
I know.
Okay, sorry.
We're no. You know, we know. We're no.
We're talking about opinions and options. The Lord made this clear to me one time when I was wrestling out, like, what should I do? I was having to make a decision. And he was like, well, okay, when you are making lunch for your babies I had toddlers at the time. Sometimes, it's just as easy to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich as it is to reheat spaghetti, and you're like, well, okay, kiddo, what do you want?
Yeah.
And there's these options and neither one is bad.
No.
And sometimes he's just like, hey, what do you want? I got some options for you. Sometimes it's not like a yes, no.
This is bad and this is right.
Right.
Right. It's just
freedom. God will just give us some options and give us
a choice.
He cares about our opinion.
I know. And sometimes you ever fall into the trap where you're like, I don't want to make the wrong opinion. I
Yes,
don't want to
so
make
scary.
pick the wrong option. Right. And it sometimes can cripple us to
Mhm.
like sit down and go, well, I just won't move until you make it really clear which one I'm supposed to pick.
And he's like,
But I think that's part of the cool part about how he has given us free will,
right.
right? Is that's part of your opinion. That's part of, having options is because we have this free will to be able to choose that he has already laid out the path for both. They're both going to go to the same destination, but we just get to pick which one we want to enjoy in the moment better.
I mean, not all the time. Sometimes he makes it very clear,
Well, yeah,
but sometimes there's options, and you're like,
I wrestle with that
I know.
sometimes. I really, because I just, like what you're saying with lunch. Well, which one would suit me better? What do you have planned for me later? Is peanut butter and jelly better? Do I need that kind of carb, or do I need heavier carb with spaghetti? Like, which one do you think is better for me? And he's like, no, which one would you like?
Yeah.
Because he's so interested in also our enjoyment on the journey.
Isn't that great?
Do you know? He so wants us to enjoy it with him, and that's so relational.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we can get in our head and in wanting to make sure we're doing his will, and we forget that he's so relational and wants us to enjoy every single moment of the day with him.
Yeah.
And he's already accounted for all of those things.
Yeah.
He's accounted for you to make a choice or to have an opinion.
So anyway, those are some of the things that I'm thinking about, and
Opinions and options,
opinions and options.
and how it's great and hard at the same time.
Yeah.
And I do remember there was a time where the Lord said, well, what do you want to do? And I remember being like, well, what do you mean? Because I was so diligent for a while to ask him what he wanted me to do. And he was like, no, the rest of the day is yours. Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, don't you want me to use it wisely? And he's like, I trust you to use it wisely. Just do what you want. Actually, yesterday I kind of had a day like that. I needed to work on my mental health. And he was like, well, first off, you don't feel good. Second off, I'm not telling you to do a whole bunch of things. I'm asking you to rest. And so what do you want to do? Do you want to go work in your yard, or do you want to take a nap? Like, which one? Because I'm not asking you to work. I'm asking you to rest and enjoy. Right. So like, and I think I was like, well, I have to plant my plants, and I have to, and that would be more productive. And God's like, yeah, but you also are tired. So which one do you want? Just make a choice. You have options. And sometimes it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm. And it can be paralyzing because we're perfectionists.
Yeah, we don't want to fall into perfect, because we also don't want to fail.
Right.
Sometimes I worry that making the wrong.
This whole being devoted thing is pretty challenging. But it's fun, right?
It is challenging, but I think it goes, like you're saying, it goes heavily back into navigation, right? That we need to know
who's beside us,
who's beside us, whose we are, where we're headed, and like the freedom and all the things you get to enjoy on your way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want olives, so I'm going to give her the olives. I have the option to give her my olives. Like, those are things that we can do along the journey, and he wants to partake with that with us. So praise the Lord for that.
Hallelujah. Just going to celebrate and trust that he'll lead the way, right?
Yeah. Eyes on him.
And like you were even talking about earlier, if we make a decision that's the bad one or the wrong one, he's going to correct us, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst that can happen? If we are actually seeking his will,
man,
like, he's going to close the door, or he's going to redirect us, or I mean, he'll do what he needs to do if we're submitted to him and we were seeking him.
Mhm.
Like, we're not going to miss it.
No. Okay. This is what he's bringing to mind. I was up camping last year, and I was it's a whole story. Anyway, we're not going to go into the whole story, but I was in the bathroom, changing out of my swimsuit, and all of a sudden I looked, and there was a butterfly inside the bathroom. And I remember looking at it and going, you're not supposed to be in here. Like, why are you in here? And I was sad for this butterfly because it's trapped. It's trapped inside of a house. It cannot thrive in a house, right? In a bathroom. And I corralled it, and I got it outside. And instantly, the Lord, this is last year, because I wrestled with exactly what she's saying. What if I make the wrong decision? I'm paralyzed. I don't want to do the wrong thing. And God came over me, and he said, you are like a butterfly. And this is for somebody else also. You are like a butterfly. And if you get in the wrong room, if you get in the wrong space, I will be faithful to put somebody in your path to get you out. I will be faithful to put somebody, a friend, right? Somebody to speak to you and say, you're not in the right spot. You need to get out, and they'll help you get out. And I think
He's good like that.
He's good like that. And ever since he spoke that to me, I was like, you're right. And he is always faithful to say, hey, I don't want you here anymore. Or you got in the wrong spot. You made the wrong choice. You went through the wrong window. Okay, come on. Out you go. And he'll use it all for good. He purposes everything for good.
Oh,
right.
For those who love him, he will use it all for good.
Yes.
Okay.
Love it.
So there we go with options and opinions.
Oh. Okay.
And let's slide into our next segment on our discussion.
Our devoted discussion.
This is fun. Because I guess it's kind of hand in hand here, right?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, obedience.
Yeah.
And specifically, because obedience is such a large topic, we're kind of going to bring it down.
We're going to break it down
into three different areas of obedience.
Yes. So here we go.
Can we start on that one?
Yes. Let's start on that one. So in our obedience, we have obligation.
Obligations.
It's a big word. Sometimes it's intimidating when you think about obligations because we all have different obligations, right? Which then challenges us in responsibilities.
What are we responsible for?
Really have to break it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to go to the Lord and say, what am I responsible for?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, this is something that the Lord has really made very clear to me, that I am only really responsible for myself. My own thoughts, my own emotions, my own choices.
Yeah.
So this is first and foremost my responsibility.
As a recovering codependent, that was a good lesson for me to learn. It's true.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we don't have the power, right, to
nope.
for anybody else's emotions, thoughts, and choices.
Nor are you called to bear all of that.
Right. Obviously, if you have small children, some of those responsibilities are ours. Like we have to kind of,
and it shifts,
coach through different seasons
as they grow.
Right. We've got to kind of coach them through all of those things and navigate their choices and all of that. But,
right.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I would say just to
ourselves,
keep that in mind. We are responsible for ourselves.
I think learning that I'm not responsible for other people's reactions. I am or responses.
Yeah.
Right. That was an important lesson for me.
Yeah.
To go, okay, I'm responsible and obligated to be kind, to be loving, to be, you know what I mean? All of those things. First and foremost. And then after that,
other people's responses, that's on them.
Yeah. And if there's a lashing out, maybe, then I am obligated to re-enter and sometimes and be biblical in my response. Right. I'm responsible for those things. Yeah. So that's first and foremost.
Yeah. And then navigating our other responsibilities is, yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting as time shifts, right? As kids get older, as a mom, because daily, how much that changes, you know, and how much we have to be willing to be in the ebb and flow of how our responsibilities and our obligations are shifting, and how we're like trying to give some responsibility to other people. And then, do you know what I mean? And I don't know, in the midst of shifting and all of those things, I think we have to really stay obedient, to stay fluid with the Lord.
Right.
In that.
In our response, like each season kind of has its own obligations, right? Like, and I think honestly, we do need to be diligent about setting those and being intentional to make sure that we're that our obligations are in line with what God is calling us to in obedience. And so often we can just kind of flippantly go throughout life, and life just kind of, it has power over us versus us having the power over our life.
Yeah.
You know, like life just happens versus no, we're doing life. Like we get to
Partake.
own it, and we can be like in control of what we're obligated to do and what responsibilities we're going to take on, and what God has called us to. But we have to really just be intentional about it.
Yeah.
And that can be challenging for some.
I think because sometimes I like to think that like sometimes seasons don't shift. So but in my obedience, I have to be like, say, okay, if we are not being obedient in our day-to-day walk with the Lord and spending time with him and having a relationship with him, how do we know what we're supposed to be obligated to?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's like, I think that there's something to be said about just the simplicity of our obedience in relationship with the Lord, just the simple, the basics, and how that will end up leading us into what we are obligated to, responsible for. Just the foundational line.
Yeah.
You know, and I think sometimes we get a little bit lazy.
Right.
In our day-to-day. It was like, it's just normal, da, 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 da. But like God's always shifting and always working to keep you uncomfortable. Let me tell you, God loves to keep you uncomfortable, to keep you growing and progressing and moving forward. So if you're comfortable right now,
something might be wrong.
Like go to him and say, am I being obedient in the foundation of obedience? Or am I just doing the works part?
I know there are times where I feel like there were certain things I was made to do. Like when I do it, I like feel so alive and it's like awesome. But at the same time, it's really hard. Like none of it is easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or like your grace to do it.
Yeah.
Right. But grace doesn't mean it's easy.
Every time, like there's this buildup and it's like the nerves and the guts and the like wrestling, and then I do it and it's like, oh my gosh, I was made for this. Anyway,
are you going to tell us what that thing is?
Oh, well, I mean, it's teaching, it's acting, it's writing, it's doing spoken word. It's like when I get up
easy when you do it.
When I get up and speak, I mean, when I'm actually doing it, and there have been times where I've like committed to doing a Bible study and it's like, oh gosh, I got so much going on. I just don't know if I should do this. And then I get in the word and then it starts like, and then there's this passion and it's like, oh my gosh. And then I start sharing and it's like, this is it.
Yeah.
But then like, so if I'll get up and speak somewhere, and like the whole buildup, it's like these nerves and it's like this, oh gosh, are they going to hear me? Am I going to make sense? Am I, and then afterwards, it's always this huge relief. And I'm like, grateful that I'm done. And then it's like, oh, I hope I get to do it again. But, it's like.
So what you're telling us is that what you've been obligated, honored, and trusted with and responsible for, right? When the Lord says go, it's not always easy.
No.
And when it looks easy, because I'm not going to lie, I watch this woman do these things and it looks easy. It looks like she just gets up there and it just flows out of her like it's no big deal. And she never had to wrestle through anything. That's what it looks like. But what you're telling us is that we can relate to that.
Well, I hope. I'm just saying that
not just like, teaching, but in what we're obligated to.
What we're obligated to do. And when she was talking about how God doesn't like you comfortable, just because like doing something that you were made to do, something that you're gifted and blessed and anointed to do, it doesn't mean it's easy or comfortable.
Means your grace to do it.
Anyway, that's all
I appreciate your honesty because I'm not the only one that needs to hear, because I see it. I'm like, that looks so easy, but it's not easy to walk in your anointing. It's not comfortable. You have to face fears. You have to face people. You have to face criticism. You have to face so many things because you're human, right? And things that I do, people think that's so easy, but it is not. It is not easy. But we have to be uncomfortable because that's where God shows up.
Yep.
In the uncomfortable, when you are obligated and entrusted to go and you're responsible to go
and carry
it. It doesn't mean you're comfortable.
Yeah.
But it does mean you're graced.
Okay. So areas of obedience. That was obligation.
Yes. Opposition.
sometimes we're called to be obedient despite opposition,
So yeah, that's a real thing.
right?
And that just feeds into the uncomfortability and all the things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think opposition comes in many different forms. Sometimes opposition comes in your comment section. Sometimes opposition comes in your own home. Sometimes opposition comes in your marriage. Sometimes opposition comes in friendships. Sometimes opposition comes from family. Sometimes opposition is just
In your heart, in your flesh, in your whole, like,
first and foremost,
spiritual tension even. I mean, I know there have been times where I have been so there's been so much resistance about going somewhere or doing something, and I'm just thinking like, this is like, I shouldn't even, like, this is dumb, I shouldn't do this. And then when I actually do it, it's like, holy, oh my gosh, it's so good that I did this and I showed up. Like, then I needed to do this, and no wonder I had all this opposition, because I was actually being called and something was going to happen once I responded.
Right, because opposition means dependence. And dependence and obedience, they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. We have to be dependent on God to grace us to be obedient. Do you know what I mean? We have to partake in that. It's twofold.
Right.
And we have to be dependent that God's going to show up.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm obedient, you know how many things the Lord has asked me to do where I was like, are you sure? Are you sure that you want me to do this? Because from where I sit and look, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And he's like, yeah, go. And then I have to be dependent that he's going to defend me. I have to be dependent that he's going to give me the strength, the courage, the grace, the ability, the words, all of those things.
Yeah.
Right. But my obedience to be dependent on him, that's when we face and conquer, you know, what's the word?
Yeah. And sometimes we feel like when we've got opposition, we can almost feel like, oh, maybe this isn't meant to be, right? Sometimes we feel like that. And at this, I feel like there's this saying called new levels, new devils.
Yeah, I heard that so many times. Oh my gosh, of course you said it.
Does it bother you?
No.
I mean,
it bugs me, like my flesh.
Annoying because it's this
bugs my flesh, but not me.
But I do feel like when God is ready to take us to another level in our walk, that there is a bigger resistance and a bigger opposition, because advancing the kingdom means taking away from the kingdom of darkness. And so, you know, our enemy's not happy about that, right? Us stepping into our calling and advancing the kingdom.
And strengthening your testimony, right? And I was just thinking about
strengthening your testimony. That's a good one.
You know, and that character, you know, when you're persevering creates character creates hope. When you're
hope does not disappoint.
And no. And when you are out here and you are strengthening your testimony and shifting and persevering, that is what casts out all darkness. You know what I mean? You can't fight against my testimony. You cannot argue with my testimony. I know that I know that I know what the Lord has brought me through because of my testimony, because I've seen his faithfulness. So whatever darkness cannot come over the light of my testimony. It doesn't have the power.
So don't be afraid of opposition.
Yeah. Think about walking around that building 7 times. You remember, like, the opposition that you would feel. And I think sometimes we feel that
in our flesh, like, this is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous. We're going around again and again and again, but he was obedient.
Yeah.
Even though he faced the opposition of, and nothing's falling. Yeah. Nothing's falling. It does fall.
Well, did they even know what to expect? Did God tell Jacob what was going to happen after
going 7 times?
Yeah. Because he said, we'll put up the story here where God tells, who came after Moses? It was Jacob.
Yeah.
I interrupt this program to announce that it was not Jacob. It was Joshua. Joshua came after Moses and led the Israelites to march around Jericho. You can find the whole story in Joshua 6. Check it out. And he said, I want you to take the Israelites and march around the city of Jericho 7 times. Don't say a word. Don't say a word. Just march around there 7 times. And they did it for 7 days, didn't they?
Yeah.
And so then on the 7th day, they blew a horn after the 7th time around. And that's when the walls fell down. And I just wonder sometimes if we were obedient like that, if we would see more miracles. Okay.
Well,
Side note, but did he even tell them that what would happen when the
I don't
trumpet
remember.
blew?
I don't think
We're
so.
gonna look that up.
I don't.
But sometimes God doesn't tell us.
He just says to do, and you have to be obedient to do what you are obligated to do,
Or
asked to do.
us take a step of faith.
Yeah, and face the
And
opposition of it.
Opposition of our flesh.
And the opposition of not knowing.
Right.
Right? Sometimes we just don't know. We're walking in faith.
Okay, and that leads into the next area of obedience. And we got to hurry through this.
Opportunity.
It's opportunity.
Opportunities give you the opportunity to trust God in a new and deeper way. Open doors. When God says, here's the door, walk through it, you're like, what if it looks really good and you're fine? But some doors that are opened are kind of scary. And guess what? That is an opportunity for you to have such deeper dependence and trust, and to use everything that the Lord has built in you, qualified you, whether you know it or not. When the door opens, he's like, okay, walk in and ask me what to do in here. I trust you. I'm entrusting you with this open door. And it's an honor.
Yeah.
To be entrusted, but also to trust the Lord on a new level.
To trust him in a new level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to lean on him. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Think about that promised land.
I know.
When you walk in,
well, remember the Israelites were too afraid to go into the promised land.
That's my point. Is like there's this opportunity to trust God in a way that was like, be crazy. And I challenge us to have that mindset of like, no matter what I'm facing, whatever, what door or promised land you're going to walk me in, I'm going to trust you that you're going to conquer these giants that look huge. But you say it's good, so okay.
You say it's good, so okay. All right, well, I'm taking on that challenge, and my stomach is churning as I say that, Jocelyn. Did your stomach churn?
Me? No. I'm good to go.
Oh, okay, well, maybe some listeners can relate.
She's going to take that challenge and she's going to go, okay, Lord, you open the door. Let's go. Okay. We love you all.
If you can relate, will you leave a comment?
Leave a comment.
That would be awesome.
We love it. Love it.
I want to hear. All right. Okay. Have a great week, you guys. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Oh, or mark whatever day.
And mark your calendars for the live coming up.
Yeah.
While you're listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the month.
11:30 Pacific time.
We'll give more details.
Yeah, down there at the end of this one. Okay.
Mark your calendar for the next Devoted in the Daily Live. Let's talk in real time about all these things. Join us on your lunch hour, 11:30 Pacific Standard Time on the last Tuesday of the month. And will you like this video or podcast so it can reach more people? Man, we would love it if you shared it and hit subscribe. And even leave a comment. It would be so great to hear from you. Now, you can catch Jocelyn almost daily on the socials for buckets of great encouragement in little doses. Find her at Buckets of Berries on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And be sure to grab a copy of Christine's Bible study curriculum, Crown and Sword. It's right there in the link in the show notes. It's with so much gratitude that we pray that you will be filled with the knowledge of His will, bearing fruit and being strengthened with endurance and joy. Godspeed, friend.